All right, honestly, I don't really have much for you guys today, but I'm trying to get back on track with putting out daily content. So I think today what I'm going to do is just take you through some of my favorite podcasts. If you don't know, I have 4 podcasts that I run myself, and that's another thing that takes away a little bit from putting out consistently on this channel. But podcasts are a big part of my life, and you can kind of get an idea of where I get some of the ideas that I have, and which of these podcasts kind of influence the way that I do things. So I figured I'd take a look at my podcast feed and the things that I subscribe to and that I regularly listen to. Maybe give you guys a little bit of insight into my way of thinking. So let's I'm just gonna flip it around and give you a look at inside my podcast feed. All right, so here we go. You can just see by my screensaver, I'm a big fucking nerd. Huge X-Men background here. So let's go into the Google Podcast feed here and take a look. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go to subscriptions, and I'm just going to go through here and kind of click on each one and give you guys a little rundown of what the podcast is if you're not familiar with it. Some of these you might recognize. Some of them are pretty big podcasts. Other ones a little more obscure. But hopefully you'll pick up and check out some of these podcasts as I describe them to you, or as you see them on my feed. So they're in alphabetical order, so it's not in any level of importance or anything like that. But these are ones I listen to regularly or have listened to a lot in the past. Like maybe I've binged the entire series, but they don't currently put stuff out, and I'm just hoping that someday they will. Anyway, so let's dig into it. This one, American Glutton. This is a brand new one. I'll just read it to you. Actor Ethan Suplee was an aspiring plus-size model long before it became trendy, and now sets to examine our current obesity crisis. On American Glutton, he'll talk to everyone from experts to average Joe, exploring all diets he has been on over the last 2 decades, taking us on his journey from obese to svelte and back again. Now, if you don't know who Ethan Suplee is, how could you not? He's a huge actor, no pun intended. He was a really big guy for a long time, and he has now lost a lot of weight. Now he's like jacked. And if you guys haven't seen online what Ethan Suplee looks like right now, go check that out. I mean, you can see the picture there, but it doesn't do him justice. Go check that out. Just look up Ethan Suplee transformation. But Ethan Suplee was, I think he got it started on Boy Meets World. He was a bully along with Frankie on that show, and then he was in so many things. American History X, The Butterfly Effect, My Name is Earl. If you don't know who Ethan Suplee is, I'm sorry, because he's wildly entertaining and also extremely motivating now that he has lost all this weight. It's incredible. All right, next up, Comics in Motion. Now, I've had these guys on my Marvel Plus podcast on several occasions, but this is a comic book media podcast. So what these guys do, originally it started out, what they did is they would take comic book movies and TV series and just break them down, right? Each episode would be a new, not just new stuff either. They'd go back through the years and look at stuff from the 70s, 80s, 90s, current stuff that's coming out, everything. And anything that's based on a comic book, they would break down. But they have now expanded, and their feed includes everything. It's like, actual comic book breakdowns, comic book storylines. They've got, it's just all kinds. You can just see, like, they put out something every single day now, and it's all comic book related stuff. My favorite part is the TV and movie reviews, what it originally started as. But these guys, Dave Horrocks and Chris Phelps, who started this feed, they've grown it into something crazy, something big. Where they've added like 12 other hosts to their show. You can see 427 episodes. A lot of content over there to check out. But it's one of my favorite comic book media podcasts. Next up is me, Daily BS. If you haven't checked out the podcast version of this YouTube channel, it's basically the same thing. Look, an everyday regular human man dishes about life, movies, TV, pop culture, fitness, politics, history, nerd shit of all sorts. So as you can see, this is literally just an audio version of what I do here. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. All right, next up, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. If you are a fan of history, this is my favorite history podcast ever. In Hardcore History, journalist and broadcaster Dan Carlin takes his Martian unorthodox way of thinking and applies it to the past. Was Alexander the Great a bad person, as bad a person as Adolf Hitler? What would Apaches with modern weapons be like? Will our modern civilization ever fall like civilizations of the past? This isn't academic history, but the podcast's unique blend of high drama, masterful narration, and Twilight Zone style twists has entertained millions of listeners. And look at this, man. This is how in-depth Dan Carlin goes into subjects. This Supernova in the East, it's all about the history of Japan. And you can see, he puts them out very sporadically. I mean, I'm talking 6 months apart sometimes or more. But he goes so deep on these things. Look at this. 4.5 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours. There's some 6-hour podcasts on here. And you can see the Supernova one right here. Supernova in the East. So far, it's 5 parts, each of them being around 4 hours long. So, I mean, you've got to really be into history to be into Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, because it really is hardcore. But I am really into history, pretty hardcore. So I really enjoy Dan Carlin. Like I said, it's probably more for people who have a long drive, long spurts of time where they need to fill up their time. I love just whenever he puts one out, it's like, oh man, sweet, because it's like I said, it's so few and far between that it's like a surprise each time you get one. So it's really cool. If you are into history, please go check it out. It's really, really good. It's like for me, it's the definitive history podcast. There's a bunch of history podcasts out there, but nothing like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. All right, Fat Man Beyond. And if you're noticing a trend here, I'm all over the place. Like, my interests are everywhere. As you can see, history, comic books, fitness. All right, Fat Man Beyond is Kevin Smith's podcast with Mark Bernardin, where they discuss geek stuff. That's it. They discuss the latest movies, they discuss the latest TV shows, stuff that they're working on, just entertainment and pop culture and geek stuff, right? Mostly probably comic book related stuff, but really fun podcast. And there's a video version on YouTube, but most of the time I just listen to it, to be honest. So Fat Man Beyond, it started off as Fat Man on Batman, and they ended up changing their name, but this is something I listen to just about every episode to see what they say about it. Garage Gym Athlete. Now, this is a smaller, probably lesser known podcast. They're actually kind of developed around a website that they created, a certain type of fitness. It's basically functional fitness. It's not CrossFit, and it's not powerlifting. It's not, bodybuilding. It's kind of a mix of all of them, and it's really sustainable type fitness. And I just enjoy listening to it, especially on like long runs or during workouts. But they do, as you can see, it's like every couple of days they're putting something out, but their regular podcast is like once a week, and the longer version. And I just enjoy listening to it. Even though I'm not subscribed to their website, I don't use their protocols, I do like listening to their take on things, because they have like kind of a no-nonsense approach to fitness and nutrition, and they're not into fads, and I really appreciate that. Okay. Generation X-Men podcast. Now, this I just started listening to, and I don't know why, because it's been around since 2017, but these guys are hilarious. These two guys from Australia break down each episode of X-Men, the animated series, which is a staple of my childhood and most of my peers. If you ever enjoyed X-Men, the animated series, trust me when I say you have to go check this out. Their Australian accents, like their accents, I feel like, and their just their entire vernacular, it gives a unique feel and kind of twist on this thing, and I just really enjoy it. I really enjoy hearing these guys talk about it, and they're absolutely hilarious. Both hosts, just the way they go back and forth and bounce ideas off of each other, it's a really good podcast, and I wish I would have started listening to it earlier, but I've been binging it. I'm about to finish it now. I'm already like 30, 40 episodes in, and only got, a handful left. So if you're into X-Men the Animated Series, if you're a 90s kid, you will enjoy this.